pay attention because what went down in the Argentina locker room after losing the World Cup final to Spain is way worse than anything they are telling you on television. Leo Messi, usually the calmest guy in the world, the guy who never raises his voice, who always swallows his pride, this time he did not. Right in front of his teammates, broken, crying, with that silver medal still hanging from his neck, he pointed his finger at a teammate and let loose a phrase that burned itself into that locker room forever. Who was this player whose attitude pushed Messi over the edge? What exactly did he do to make Messi, after 20 years of taking hits, finally lose his mind? Did it have something to do with the ugly brawls that erupted with the Spanish players after the final whistle? Stick around, because I am going to tell you what the Argentine media is hiding. Most importantly, I will give you the exact words that sources say Messi spat right in his face in front of 26 people. Let's take this step by step because to understand the scale of this disaster, we have to look at what happened first. July 19th, MetLife Stadium, New Jersey. Over 80,000 screaming fans in the stands, and half the planet glued to their screens. Spain versus Argentina, the European champions against the world champions, the generation of Lamine Yamal against the last dance of Messi. On paper, you could not ask for a better final, but what actually went down on the grass was, without exaggeration, a slaughter disguised as a close game. Sure, the scoreboard says 1-0. It says it was decided in extra time, in the 106th minute, by Ferran Torres. Anyone just looking at the score would think it was a tight match, one of those games settled by some silly mistake, but it was not. Not even close. Argentina did not manage a single shot on target during the 90 minutes of regulation. Not one. The world champions, the team of Messi, Julian Alvarez, and Mac Allister, could not force Unai Simon to make a single real save in 90 minutes of football. That is not just losing. That is getting run over by a steamroller and thanked for the privilege. Spain completely controlled the ball. Spain chose when to attack and when to slow it down. Spain pinned Argentina back inside their own box, leaving them completely breathless, chasing after the ball like a kid stuck in the middle of a rondo game, minute after minute until the legs give out and the mind starts to slip. And when you lose your head, my friend, things happen, very ugly things. On this night, two things went down, and everyone is only talking about one of them. The first one was seen by the entire world, a play in the 93rd minute of stoppage time, with the game deadlocked at 0-0 and everyone already looking toward extra time. A foolish, avoidable, completely pointless play that left Argentina down to 10 men right before starting the 30 most important minutes in the last decade of Argentine soccer. After that, the match was basically over. Spain just kept passing and passing until they finally found the opening. I will tell you exactly who was behind that moment. I will give you his name, and I will explain why that red card was far more avoidable than anyone realizes. Because there was a detail 11 minutes earlier that almost nobody noticed, and it changes everything. But not yet. Not yet. Because first you need to know the other part, what happened after the final whistle, what the main cameras missed, and what sources say infuriated Messi even before he reached the dressing room. Because when Slovenian referee Slavko Vincic blew the final whistle, MetLife Stadium split into two different worlds. On one side, pure Spanish ecstasy players running wildly, Ferran Torres in tears, Luis de la Fuente hugging everyone in sight, and the entire bench storming onto the pitch. On the other side, silence. That heavy Argentine silence that settles deep in your chest. Messi stood frozen in the center circle, hands on his hips, staring blankly into space. Then he clutched his throat, trying to swallow the bitter defeat, before finally sitting on the grass to pull off his boots, pulling off his socks, just sitting there watching others lift the one trophy he wanted more than anything. That is the image everyone remembers. That is the photo that went viral around the world. But while everyone was sharing it, just 30 meters away, over near the touchline, something completely different was unfolding, and that is the part the cameras did not show. Want to know what chaos broke loose in that corner while we were all staring at Messi sitting on the turf? Well, buckle up, because it is much worse than it looks. Word is coming from people close to the Argentine camp that right after the whistle, a massive brawl broke out between players from both teams, and in the middle of that fight were two very specific Argentine names, Leandro Paredes and Nahuel Molina. Two highly experienced veterans, both of them World Cup champions in Qatar. Two veterans who know exactly what you can and cannot do on a soccer field in front of 1,000 cameras. And yet, according to reports, they completely lost their minds. Let us put this in context, because I do not want you to just buy the easy version of this story. Paredes and Molina did not start that final. Both of them began on the bench. Escaloni decided to start Montiel, Depool, and Nico Gonzalez, keeping Paredes, Molina, and Simeone on the bench as impact subs. And for a veteran player, that hurts. It is the World Cup final. It is probably the last World Cup final of your life, and you have to watch from the sidelines, boiling on the inside, watching the Spanish players pass the ball right under your nose. When they finally got subbed in, they played with pure rage, trying to fix everything in 20 minutes. We know how that ends. Hard tackles, constant protests, pulling jerseys, and borderline refereeing. The match had turned incredibly ugly in the final minutes. Argentina was desperate, without the ball, relying on dark arts and physical play because it was all they had left. And when the final whistle blew, everything apparently exploded. There was pushing, shoving, and a highly heated exchange of words with 2 or 3 of the Spanish players. There are even rumors that hands were thrown, that the shouting match turned into a physical brawl, forcing kitmen, assistants, and coaching staff from both sides to jump in and tear them apart. People say it was a truly ugly few seconds, with staff members restraining Paredes from behind, while Molina desperately tried to reach an opponent while 2 teammates grabbed his jersey. Now just picture that image. Think about how bad that looks. You just lost a World Cup final. You just saw your captain, the greatest player in history, devastated on the grass, and instead of going to help him up, instead of showing sportsmanship and congratulating the opponent like protocol demands, rather than acting like a World Cup runner-up, you start shoving Spanish players celebrating the greatest day of their lives. They say Messi looked up, saw the chaos, and his expression instantly changed. He stopped looking sad and got angry. He stood up, walked over, and muttered a few quick words to both of them. The exact words did not leak, but they say it was something like, "Not like this, we do not do this. Cut it out right now." Paredes and Molina backed off immediately, because you do not argue with Messi, but the damage was already done. Because in modern soccer, absolutely everything is captured on camera. Even though the main broadcast was focused on Messi and the Spanish celebration, there were cell phone cameras and agency photographers everywhere. Pitch-side photographers captured it. The images went viral, and the online conversation shifted in just a matter of minutes. Because suddenly, people were not just talking about Argentina losing, they were talking about how they lost. They were talking about a World Cup winning squad leaving New Jersey after putting on an embarrassing show. They were called sore losers. People pointed out that after a whole month of taking heat from half the world, Argentina said goodbye to the tournament with the exact toxic image critics had painted for weeks. And for someone like Messi, that is unbearable. I am completely serious. That man has spent 20 years protecting the national team like his own home. He put up with people calling him cold-blooded, saying he did not care about the jersey. He endured Maradona comparisons used to break him, yet he always defended the badge with class. And now, in his very last match, his grand farewell, the defining image of his team would be 2 of his own veterans getting into a brawl with the world champions. Now, pay attention here, because there is a hidden detail you need to know that makes perfect sense of everything. It turns out that during the match, something happened that had already left the Argentines absolutely boiling. And it was not a tackle or a foul. It was a gesture. Marcuk Cucurella, the Spanish fullback, walked up to Lionel Messi at one point and said something to him while covering his mouth with his hand. While that might seem like a silly schoolyard move, in this tournament it was serious because FIFA had introduced a new rule targeting exactly that. If you cover your mouth to talk trash to an opponent, you can get a straight red card. It is the rule everyone calls the Vinicius Law. And in this very tournament, Paraguay player Miguel Almiron had already been sent off for doing exactly that. Messi complained, raising his hand to demand a red card from the referee. But VAR did not intervene, and absolutely nothing happened. Cucurella stayed on the field completely unfazed until the final whistle, and that, word is, was where a highly dangerous level of frustration began to build up within the Argentine squad. They left the field feeling like everything went against them while Spain got away with murder, feeling like their teammate's red card took 3 seconds to decide, while Cucurella's card never came at all. And it is deeply ironic, right? It is one of the most ironic things from this World Cup, because for a whole month, the global soccer conversation was the exact opposite. I have to explain this because it is crucial to understanding why that locker room was a powder keg before the whistle even blew. For weeks, half the world accused Argentina of getting help from the referees. People even made up a word that went viral everywhere, Argentina. And it was not just a few internet trolls. There were official complaints, former referees speaking out on TV, and rival managers letting loose in front of microphones. It started in the opener against Algeria, Argentina led 1-0, and Messi made a sliding tackle from behind that looked like a clear yellow card to everyone. The Polish referee Marciniak blew for the foul, and that was it. No card, no review, nothing. VAR never called him over, and the fuse was lit. Then came the round of 16 against Egypt, which was even worse. They disallowed a goal by Mustafa Chico for a supposed foul by Marwan Attia on Lisandro Martinez, a foul that looked completely made up. And that was not all. The play leading up to Argentina's winning goal was also highly controversial. Egyptian coach Hossam Hassan stood in front of the cameras afterward and straight up said it was a rigged match, and everybody saw it. Egypt went as far as to formally ask FIFA to ban French referee François Letexier, forcing them to issue a public defense. Pierluigi Collina himself, the head of the referees committee, had to explain that the decision followed the rules and they were not influenced by anyone. When FIFA has to go out of its way to deny being influenced, you know things are bad. And it continued in the quarterfinals against Switzerland with another VAR call that sent a Swiss player off and put Argentina in the semifinals. On top of that, the numbers show Argentina was awarded the most penalties in the entire tournament. The data is real, and that makes this cruel twist of fate even wilder. Argentina reached the final after a month of accusations that the referees were in their pocket, and then lost the match with a man sent off for a second yellow, while an opponent escaped a red card that the new rules clearly required. Imagine playing with that pressure and that constant background noise for 30 days. Now let us get to the main event. Let us talk about the play in the 93rd minute. Let us talk about the player Messi pointed his finger at. Let us put his name on the table once and for all. The player Leo Messi, targeted in that locker room according to leaks, was Enzo Fernández. Enzo Fernández, the Chelsea midfielder, a World Cup champion in Qatar and best young player of that tournament, the engine of this team's midfield for years, one of Scaloni's untouchables, and one of Argentina's absolute best players in this tournament, until that single play. Now let me explain exactly what happened, because there is a part of this story that almost nobody has got right. 93rd minute, stoppage time. The referee added 4 minutes, and normal time was seconds away from ending. Argentina was physically dead, sitting deep, hanging on for dear life, praying to reach extra time and make it to the penalty shootout. Because let us be honest, with Dibu Martinez in goal, any penalty shootout is a game of chance where Argentina holds all the cards. Everyone knew it, Spain knew it, and they pushed hard to avoid that nightmare. In the final play of regulation, Argentina cleared a long ball from the back. Enzo jumped for a header, lost it, and Spain launched a counterattack. Pau Cubarsí, the kid who plays with the calmness of a 35-year-old veteran, read the play, intercepted it, and pushed forward. And Enzo Fernández, chasing back, arriving late, and carrying all the frustration of an entire match without touching the ball, lunged in, throwing himself recklessly at a kid who had already passed the ball half a second earlier. Cubarsí literally flew through the air and stayed down on the grass. Players from both sides put their hands to their heads. It looked incredibly bad. Referee Vincic, standing just 3 meters away, did not hesitate. Yellow card, second yellow, red. And just like that, Argentina's World Cup was over. But here is what I was telling you, the detail that changes everything and explains why Messi, according to reports, exploded like that. Because that was not a straight red card. It was 2 yellows, and the first one, in the 82nd minute, was completely avoidable, totally unnecessary, and frankly, incredibly foolish. Do you know why Enzo Fernández got that first yellow card? For arguing, for shouting at the referee? He begged for a foul in the center of the pitch. Vincic waved it off, and Enzo lost his mind, waving his arms and venting 80 minutes of pure frustration chasing yellow shadows. Just think about it. You are playing a World Cup final 0-0, only 8 minutes left. You know that if you reach penalties, you have the best goalkeeper on earth back there. Knowing your team is exhausted, that extra time is coming, and you will need every single player on the field. Yet you pick a fight with the referee over a midfield foul that changes absolutely nothing. And against Vincic, the strictest referee in the entire tournament. The same guy who sent off Piero Hincapié in this very World Cup just for covering his mouth. That yellow card is what killed Argentina, not the foul on Cubarsí. The foul on Cubarsí on its own would have just been a yellow. Enzo would have stayed on. Argentina would have played extra time 11 against 11, exhausted but complete, and who knows if they would have made it to penalties. Who knows if Dibu Martinez would have worked his magic. And right now, we would be celebrating Argentina's 4th star and the perfect fairy tale ending for Lionel Messi. But no. Because 11 minutes earlier, someone decided it was a great idea to scream at the referee over nothing. And word is, He was already warned. This is critical. According to leaks from the coaching staff, right after that first yellow card, several teammates rushed over to Enzo, telling him to calm down, to leave the referee alone, that he could not take that risk. They even say Escaloni was gesturing wildly from the sideline, begging for calm, but Enzo just kept running hot. He kept tackling hard, kept playing on the edge for the next 11 minutes until the inevitable happened. So this was not bad luck. It was not an accident. It was the predictable consequence of a guy losing his head at the worst possible moment of his career. And that is why this hurts so deeply in Argentina. Because it is not a technical error. It is not a missed penalty that could happen to anyone, or an unlucky own goal. This was a total mental collapse. A complete failure of emotional control. And in a World Cup final against Spain, with Argentina drowning, that kind of mistake is fatal. Inside the locker room now. After the chaos, the tunnel scuffles, and the medal ceremony, the heavy doors finally closed. What reportedly happened inside those four walls is the reason we are talking today, leaked by those closest to the squad. The MetLife locker room was dead silent, the kind of silence that actually hurts physically. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Some sat on the floor, jerseys still on, silver medals dangling around their necks. Others wept in silence, with towels draped over their heads. Dibu Martinez, normally the loudest guy in the room, the one always joking and hyping everyone up, sat there without saying a single word. Paredes cried openly, the anger from 30 minutes ago completely gone. Otamendi stared blankly at the wall, while Enzo Fernández, who had been sitting there since the 93rd minute before everyone else arrived, remained slumped in his stall, unable to lift his head. He spent over 40 minutes alone with his thoughts while his teammates bled on the pitch in extra time. 40 minutes watching the match on a monitor, knowing they were down to 10 men because of him. Those 40 minutes must have been absolute torture. Then Messi walked in. They say he entered last, having lingered in the tunnel, trying to pull himself together. When they finally closed the door, he just stood in the middle of the room, not sitting, not saying a word, staring at the floor. And right there, he started crying again. But not like on the pitch. Not with those quiet tears during the medal ceremony. This was a completely different kind of weeping, pure rage, helplessness, 20 years of his life ending in the worst possible way. Let us pause right here, because you need to understand what this match actually meant to him. Otherwise, the scale of what happened next will make no sense. Messi arrived at North America 2026 at 39 years old, playing in MLS, carrying heavy knees, heavy ankles, and knowing full well that this was his very last shot, his sixth World Cup. 2006, 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022, and 2026. Only a handful of players have ever done that. And he was not just there for the ride, okay? Not just a tourist or a photo op. Listen to these insane numbers. 8 World Cup goals. 8 at 39. A hat trick against Algeria. A brace against Austria. Plus goals against Jordan, Cape Verde, and Egypt. Not to mention 2 crucial assists in the semi-final against England in Atlanta. That massive game where Argentina fought back, leaving everyone saying the same thing, this man is an alien. And there is more. Before the final, Messi led 13 different statistical categories in the tournament. 13. Top scorer for nearly the entire cup. He was the top playmaker, with 21 accurate crosses, 24 completed dribbles, and the highest expected goals. The guy was putting on the greatest World Cup run by any veteran in soccer history. He even surpassed Klose as the all-time World Cup top scorer. Reaching 21 World Cup goals seemed like an untouchable record. Then, one afternoon, Mbappe, who was also absolutely flying, wiped it all away. He finished with 10 goals, claimed the Golden Boot, and snatched the record away by hitting 22. Just like that, Messi was left without the trophy, the Golden Ball, the Golden Boot, and the ultimate goal-scoring record. Everything gone in a single afternoon, all in 2 hours. He walked away empty-handed after being the best player on earth for a whole month. Can you even imagine that? Imagine being the absolute best for 30 days, dragging your team to the final, only to lose everything in one afternoon. Now imagine feeling like you were not the one who actually lost it. And that brings us to the turning point. Want to know what Messi allegedly said in the locker room? Just give me 10 seconds. Because first we have to look at what supposedly happened right before to trigger it all. According to inside sources, the silence is not what triggered this. It was actually Enzo Fernández who broke it by speaking up first. A completely broken Enzo stood up and started begging everyone for forgiveness, saying how incredibly sorry he was, that he ruined everything. He knew exactly what this game meant to the team and especially to Leo. Honestly, it was a brave move. In any normal situation, everyone would have admired his courage. But these were not normal circumstances. This was the very afternoon Leo Messi was saying goodbye to international soccer forever. The final time he would ever wear that if that was even possible. Everyone turned to Messi, waiting for his reaction. He is the captain, the leader, the one who always says the right thing at the right moment. They expected the usual for Messi to stand up, hug Enzo, and remind them they win and lose as a team. That no single player is ever to blame. That is what Messi always did. But this time, according to reports, he did not. Let's remember, this rumor comes from sources close to the squad and has never been publicly confirmed by any player. Messi slowly raised his head. He looked Enzo Fernández right in the eyes and muttered 5 devastating words: "We lost because of you." He did not yell. There was no shouting, no shoving, no massive scene. It was actually much worse. Just a quiet, broken whisper through tears, staring right at him. Then Messi sat down and did not say another word all night. Just imagine that moment. Picture being in that room. 26 players, coaches, kit staff, and doctors, all frozen in silence after hearing those words from a man who had never blamed a teammate in 20 years. They say nobody dared to utter a single word for several minutes. Scaloni apparently tried to break the tension, but it was too late. The damage was done. Let me explain why this matters. If this is true, it is far more serious than a simple locker room disagreement. This has massive consequences, and here are 3 reasons why. First, Enzo Fernández is only 25, with at least 2 more World Cups ahead. He is supposed to be the absolute future of Argentina's midfield. He is the natural heir to this team once Messi, De Paul, and Otamendi retire. Now, he carries the label of the kid who cost them the cup. And Argentina is not exactly the most forgiving country when it comes to soccer. Just ask the players who missed penalties in finals, or the ones who saw red in key matches. In Argentina, this is never forgotten. Second, the locker room is now completely split. Reports say 2 sides have formed: those who understand Messi's anger. They say his pain was understandable after everything he gave for the jersey. But others argue a captain should never target a teammate at his lowest point. And that second group is not small. Several players felt incredibly uncomfortable with how Messi handled the situation. They felt Enzo was already devastated and had apologized, so he did not need his captain piling on. Finally, the biggest issue of all: Messi is retiring. He is leaving for good. That was his final game, meaning there is no next camp to clear the air, and no upcoming qualifier where they can just hug and move on. The final image that will remain of Leo Messi and Enzo Fernández, 2 guys who lifted the World Cup together in Qatar, is that one sentence in that locker room. It can never be rewritten. And you know what the cruelest part of all is? Just hours earlier, right before stepping onto the pitch, Messi posted a message on Instagram that now sounds like a cruel twist of fate: a photo of the entire Argentine squad at their last dinner before the final, with a caption saying the most beautiful thing about those years was never just the trophies, but the journey itself, that the real beauty was sharing the daily grind with this group, competing together, and standing back up during the tough times. He thanked every single teammate for making sure this national team kept feeling like a family. A family, he wrote those words hours before. And hours later, according to the rumors, that family fractured in a New Jersey locker room while 2 of their veterans were shoving each other on the pitch. Let's talk about what has happened since, because the public reaction has been even more revealing than the rumors. Pay close attention to this, because the silences speak much louder than the words. Scaloni spoke after the game and his comments were extremely measured. He admitted Spain was better, and that was just the truth. He added that he absolutely remembers the runners-up, because getting that far is incredibly difficult, and they must value what they achieve. And he said one thing that left me completely cold. He said he had a lot of things to say about how they got there, but it was not worth it. A lot of things to say, but it is not worth it. Does that sound like a calm manager to you? Does that sound like a guy leaving a locker room at peace with himself? Not to me. To me, he sounds like someone holding back a massive amount of things he cannot say on camera. And from the players, there has been absolute silence about what happened inside. Not a single one has commented on the locker room nor the post-game brawl, nothing. Every statement has been straight out of the textbook, thanking the fans, feeling proud of the journey, respecting the opponent. And the national team's social media posted a beautiful message dedicated to Messi, telling him his tears belong to everyone, thanking him for his devotion and magic. All very beautiful, all very correct. When it comes to Enzo Fernández, nothing, not a single line of public support, no official message defending him, no photo, nothing. And that does not happen in a healthy locker room. In a healthy dressing room, when a teammate screws up and is devastated, the team rallies together to protect them publicly. The captain speaks, the coach speaks, the veterans speak. Here, nobody stepped forward. And that silence, my friend, is what gives the most weight to everything I just told you. Let's look at the other side of the coin now, because I always try to be fair. Because there is a part of this story that almost nobody is talking about, which actually justifies Enzo Fernández. Spain did not win that final because of the red card. Let's be honest for once. Spain won that final because they were superior from start to finish. Argentina did not have a single shot on goal in 90 minutes with 11 men on the pitch, not one. The red card came in the 93rd minute, meaning that during the entire match with a full squad, Argentina was unable to create absolutely anything. Can we really say the problem was one tackle in stoppage time? Spain conceded only a single goal in the entire World Cup, just one, a header by De Ketelaere in the quarterfinals against Belgium. Unai Simon turned into a wall, playing as a modern sweeper keeper, leaving his box, helping build up play, standing 30 meters ahead of his goal. In some matches, he recovered more balls than several opposing midfielders. That Spain side under Luis de la Fuente has been the most solid national team seen in decades, champions of Europe and world champions at the same time, just like the generation of 2008, 2010, and 2012. And with Lamine Yamal turning 19 right before the semifinals, he was the most feared player in the tournament, even if he only scored once in the entire tournament, because he did not need to. Argentina had to use 2 players to mark him the entire final, which opened up the space where Ferran Torres ended up scoring. That kid, who had just turned 18 when the tournament began, already has a Euros and a World Cup. Read that again because it is mind-blowing. So yes, Enzo messed up in a very foolish and very avoidable way. But saying Argentina lost the World Cup because of him is, honestly, a pretty unfair simplification. And that is the drama of this story, that the line Messi supposedly said, if it is true, was spoken out of absolute pain, not analysis. And that is why I believe, and this is just my opinion, if he really said it, Messi regrets it. I am convinced, because knowing his character, for someone with a 20-year career who never points fingers, that comment is just not Messi. Those words belong to a 39-year-old man who just watched his final World Cup dream slip away in his last opportunity ever. He desperately needed someone to blame because accepting that Spain was just the better team hurt way too much. And now, here is the question that is going to define the next few years of Argentine soccer. What happens now to Enzo Fernández, Leandro Paredes, and Nahuel Molina, who are leaving this World Cup with that terrible image stained onto them forever? Because all three have to go back to their clubs, they have to move on with their lives. Every single time they wear the Argentina jersey, someone will remind them of MetLife, and now they have to face it without Messi, without the shield he provided. There are even rumors that Enzo's inner circle is deeply worried about his state of mind, that they saw him completely devastated on the flight back, that he barely spoke to anyone during the entire trip, and that Messi's comment, if it was actually said, is something he will not be able to shake for years. And that, my friend, is the real tragedy of this final. That Spain walked away with a completely deserved World Cup, and Ferran Torres became a national hero with the goal of his life, that Lamine and his generation have a decade of total dominance ahead of them, while on the other side, several men were left completely shattered, one who is leaving without the farewell he truly deserved, another left carrying a burden of blame that probably is not entirely his, and a couple more who lost their cool at the worst possible moment, ruining the farewell of the greatest player in history. Soccer is just that cruel. 1 minute, a late tackle, a 30-second brawl, a 5-word phrase in a locker room, and a 20-year career ends in the worst way imaginable. What do you think about all this? Do you think Messi had the right to say that after everything he gave for that jersey? Or should a captain never point fingers at a teammate, especially in his last match? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this story is going to dominate the headlines for a long time, and I will be here to cover everything as it breaks. See you in the next one.